The DOJ is acting in unseemly haste. Look at the timing. They are now almost out of power.
It's not only sensationalize an issue, but to deliberately bring down the stock price of a certain business house.
That when you look at a charge sheet, you have to be specific to say that so and so has done such and such act, so and so has bribed certain individuals. But I do not find a single name or a single detail in the charge sheet as to who has been bribed, in what manner has he been bribed, and the official belongs to such and such department. This charge sheet is completely silent.
No court in the United States will sustain these wire fraud charges on the basis of the material that we have seen in the indictment.
The sketchiness of the indictment, the total absence of any evidence provided for the indictment shows that this is what I call a hatchet job. See, President Trump has said that the Department of Justice is a farce. This tweet the Congress never looks at. He's a president-elect. He's making a very responsible statement. The DOJ is acting in unseemly haste. Look at the timing. They are now almost out of power. Still, at this time, it is what is called a scorched earth policy. Just like the Biden administration has escalated the matter by escalating the nature of the weaponry which they are supplying Ukraine, and Ukraine is suffering because of it. Russia has retaliated. This is also a scorched earth policy. Perhaps they noticed that Gautam Adani complimented President Trump on his success in the presidential elections, and maybe this is why, and it came soon after that. Obviously, this has been going on for some time, but the haste in which it is done, the sketchiness of the indictment, the total absence of any evidence provided for the indictment shows that this is what I call a hatchet job.
Okay, so how do you see the opposition parties' behavior on seeking adjournment regularly in the ongoing Lok Sabha sessions?
Look, this is clearly a political tool. They have just had a rout in the Maharashtra elections. I mean, they've been successful winners in coalition, of course, on the coattails of the Jharkhand Mukti Morcha. But Maharashtra was a prize which they were very confident of winning. So this is a diversionary tactic, completely diversionary tactic. They have no other issues. You will see that constantly the Congress party in particular and the India alliance sometimes harps on only two issues in which there is foreign meddling. One is Adani and the other is Manipur. These are both issues which they should stay away from, and I regret to say that it is not in the country's interest to keep promoting these and playing with fire.
When you look at a charge sheet, you have to be specific to say that so and so has done such and such act, so and so has bribed certain individuals. This is a charge sheet alleging that these people, including Adani's, have bribed Indian officials in Indian entities. I do not find a single name or a single detail in the charge sheet as to who has been bribed, in what manner has he been bribed, and the official belongs to such and such department. This charge sheet is completely silent. I don't know how one can respond to these kind of charge sheets. At the outset, I want to tell you that these are my personal legal views. I am not a spokesman for the Adani Group. I am a lawyer. I have been appearing for Adani Group in several cases. So I have gone through this indictment by the US court running into some 54 pages. My assessment is, and it is clear, that there are 5 charges or 5 counts. It is very important to note that count 1 and count 5 are more important than the others, but in neither in count 1 nor in count 5 is Mr. Adani or his nephew charged. This is like a charge sheet. It charges individuals for doing specific acts. It is like a charge sheet under the Indian penal laws, that you charge somebody with a particular act, whether it is bribery, whether it is corruption, whether it is robbery, whether it's murder.
See, it seems to me that there has been a sustained campaign on the part of a few perhaps very motivated individuals to besmirch the reputations of certain individuals in India, certain business persons, and certain business enterprises. And in my understanding, that one of these charges, which is wire fraud, is being unnecessarily trumped up and sensationalized in India by certain public commentators. But if you look at the law and what the law of wire fraud actually says, that makes it very clear that mere deception on the part of a person who's alleged to have committed it is not nearly enough. There should have been actual loss. There has to be an intention to defraud a party. In this case, even if you accept or you take these allegations at the very highest that the US prosecutors have made in their indictment, even in that case, there is this presupposition that bribery has happened, and therefore any funds or financing that has been taken from American institutional investors amounted to fraud and therefore should be prosecuted for wire fraud. This is absolutely bogus. This is wrong. This is not what the law says in the US at all. There are multiple judgments, as the one which I have quoted in my tweet, which make it absolutely clear that deception by itself, or an allegation that you have lied by itself, is not enough to bring home the charge of wire fraud. There has to have been an intention, firstly, and some actual loss to have happened, which hasn't happened in this case. And the other point, which is very important, is that the nature of the bargain, you have to see whether the nature of the bargain was actually met or not. In this case, you had US institutional investors who invested in a multi-billion-dollar business, which has many assets, presumably in India and around the world. And if the assumption is that because some executive in that large corporation may have committed some criminal acts or bribery or anything else, that does not mean that the financing that was taken from the US institutional investors was done on the back of some large conspiracy or some conspiracy to run a business on the basis of bribery. That, to my mind, is an absolutely ridiculous assertion. And I don't think if these charges go to trial in the US, no jury will sustain such charges. So this is my view. I think this is being done to not only sensationalize an issue, but to deliberately bring down the stock price of a certain business house. Maybe it is for some ulterior motives. I'm sure the investigating agencies will get to the bottom of that. But as things stand today, I can very confidently say no court in the United States will sustain these wire fraud charges on the basis of the material that we have seen in the indictment.